Uh, are we?
Not yet.
Not yet. We don't have a quorum yet.
So you need to mute the person with the.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to mute folks. Then we cannot approve the agenda yet, but I can start the chair's report, and I will do that. I have a lot to talk about today, but I'll do it quickly. And in light of our speaker today, there was record paratransit ridership in April, 40,000 weekday trips, 12 days with over 50,000 trips. So that's really great. And I'm sure Rachel will have a lot to say about that later. You may have heard there's a new RFP for some Metro North cars to replace shoreliner cars, which are cars that are behind diesel engines on the Hudson and Harlem lines. There's an order for 252 cars with an option for an additional 377 cars. And as I'm sure you can guess, that option would be exercised once they get final permission to run the Hudson line to Albany. They did run a few runs and, Amtrak didn't like that. And then they brought back the service that they had. But the governor and the Metro North president still would like to have the Hudson line go to Albany. And it makes it much more affordable for a lot of people and easier to connect for people already on the Hudson line. So that would really be great. So those additional cars will now replace cars that date back to the 80s and the 90s. That's how all these shoreliner cars are. And as you know, since we're replacing subway cars that are even older than that or about that age, we need to replace commuter cars as well. So looking forward to that. Now there is a new Rockaway Park shuttle. It now goes to Rockaway Boulevard instead of just to Broad Channel. So for beach season, you have an easier way to get to the four stations along the Rockaway Park branch there and some really nice beaches. So that's great. I asked at the last meeting whether that would immediately go away after Labor Day, and they said yes. I said, even if the weather stays nice, and they said yes, because it involves picks for the folks who run these trains. So unfortunately, that's just through Labor Day. There has been major improvement on Staten Island buses in the air conditioning department. There was a problem with air conditioning for quite a while, and they have been working since winter on their fleet to restore the air conditioning on Staten Island buses. And now that we're getting into the much warmer weather, although we did have an 80-degree day in March, as I recall, but now that we're getting into the warmer weather, hopefully those will all be working now since they're making an effort to do that. And it's a long time that they should have done this, but it's happening. It's already in effect now, but there have been rush hour changes to the 2, 3, 4, and 5 line. They've moved some service from the beginning of the rush to the earlier part of the rush, where they have found that there are the most demand for riders. So there is actually additional service now on the 2, 3, 4, and 5 during rush hours. And they have switched around when the trains arrive. So if you have apps, you can look up and see when the latest schedules are for that. Prime figures are basically down, but in one case, they're up, and that is on grand larceny. Some of the other crimes are down, but grand larceny thefts appear to be up, which is a shame. And
It's terrible.
I do see more police everywhere. I'm seeing them at more stations that I never saw them at before. So I guess that's good. Yes, Stuart.
Yes, that's the prior meeting. So have they shared whether it's any time of day or any particular branch or line?
They have not shared that.
Station.
They have not shared that.
Any location? No?
They have not shared that, but I can ask.
Right.
It follows a trend on the railroads also of increasing grand larceny.
Yes.
Of people that
People
either
fall asleep. Yeah.
or they leave their items unattended or are less careful. It's more of a crime of poverty often than it is of violence, but it's still obviously an opportunity.
Yeah, and
Opportunity.
opportunity because someone's asleep, and they got their phone sitting on them, they're gonna grab it. So that's generally they're good, but there is that one crime that has certainly gone up.
Fare evasion is a crime. Have they shared anything in particular on fare evasion?
They have shared, I'm going to get to some of that, but on the subways, it is down some. But yet I see it pretty often when I'm traveling.
We would want to know whether. Turnstiles.
No, I'm talking about stations that don't yet have the new turnstiles. The majority of stations, obviously. They are working with the three providers of the new fare gates to work out all of the shortcomings that people are taking advantage of, and then updating those gates. And each of the three providers certainly wants to make that right, because it's a great contract to get with 472 stations. So, you know, we will see as that progresses. But there was record subway ridership one day, 2 weeks ago. 4.5 million riders in one day. So people are really riding. And if you ride, you can see it's standing room only a lot of times, but specifically on weekends, it's amazing on weekends how many people are riding. And with the GOs, a lot of people look confused, and I help them, and hopefully other people help them. But there has been a lot of GOs, needless to say.
It wasn't the day of the strike either.
Sharon, you don't know. That's general orders. That means changes to service due to work going on.
Oh, okay. It was, so that ridership was not the day of the strike.
No, definitely not.
Right.
Definitely not. Number 7 line reconstruction continues. It's shifting directions at 33rd, Rawson and 46 Bliss. It's Flushing bound. They have been doing major work. You know, they have found major shortcomings in the steel structure around Woodside Station. And that's why those really massive GOs where there's no 7 service west of 74th Street Broadway in Jackson Heights have been taking place. I believe we've seen the last one of those for a while, but because I looked at upcoming weekend diversions and that's not on it, but that doesn't mean it can't come back.
Mets are here for 1 week.
They don't want to do that while the Mets are here, obviously, but they're doing major work on the 7 line, and it's very important. Ridership is so high on the 7 line. There's new, and there's going to be, now there is a new accessible entrance to Grand Central Madison at 45th and Madison, which is really cool considering it was placed in the old MTA building at 347 Madison that many of us used to go to quite frequently, which had a little direct connection to Grand Central, the regular Grand Central. This will give you access to not only Grand Central Madison, but obviously Grand Central regular terminal, 4, 5, 6, 7, and shuttle trains. So this is a beautiful new entrance. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you visit it. TWU Local 100 is now in negotiations. Now that we've settled the Long Island Railroad issue, transit workers contract is up, and they're negotiating. Obviously, the Taylor law means that they're likely not to go on strike because that costs the union a lot of money. But we still want everybody to work this out in a way that's good for riders and the workforce that is helping everybody, because there are so many of them. I mean, so many thousands of workers in transit that we want them to feel like they're important, which they certainly are. There is a push to reopen the Elmhurst Long Island Railroad Station. I'm sure you've all heard about that. Representative Grace Meng is one of the leading proponents of that. They're saying that it takes quite a while if you really want to use the 7 line, but the Elmhurst Station was adjacent to the Elmhurst Avenue M&R station on Queens Boulevard. So if you want the 7, you've got to ride up to Roosevelt Avenue, Jackson Heights, and make the switch to the 7. And there's a lot of work going on. And even if you do that, it takes much longer, obviously, to get to Midtown than the old Long Island Railroad Port Washington branch Elmhurst Station did. There used to be a Corona station too, but nobody's asking for that one back. So far, the MTA has said they don't believe ridership justifies bringing that back. Plus, it will further delay riders on the Port Washington branch east of Elmhurst. But pressure seems to keep building, so we will see how that one works out. But I think with city ticket available now, I mean, when I ride the main line and I ride through a station like Queens Village or Kew Gardens or Forest Hills, I'm seeing people boarding in the amounts that I've never seen, and it's all thanks to city ticket, which we are thankful that we advocated for so long after we started with Atlantic Ticket. And I think there would probably be a fair number of people using an Elmhurst station. Now the city ticket is available and you could probably, let me see, one stop Woodside, 10, it would be like 12 or 13 minutes from Elmhurst Station to Penn Station or Grand Central. That's really fast. And I think people would pay the extra money rather than ride all the trains. So, you know, I think there could be a future for restoring some of the city stations, but right now there's a real push for Elmhurst. You probably have heard that the feds chose Halmar and Skanska to redo Penn Station, but you may not have heard about the brand new entrance on the 8th Avenue side of Penn Station. And unfortunately, it's going to have a presidential seal and Donald Trump's name on that entrance. He couldn't get the station named after him. The governor said she would not let that happen, but he's going to get his name on the structure one way or another. And right now it looks like it will be on the brand new 8th Avenue end of the new Penn Station.
In marble.
Yeah, in marble.
I will say that a lot of buildings that are constructed do have the names of the architects and who was in office at that. So it's not unprecedented.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me he's the architect.
It's not unprecedented.
One thing that is still unknown about the Penn Station, what we do know that what was called the Hulu Theater of Madison Square Garden will be gone. That's part of the change. But what we don't know is about Block 780, which is 33rd Street. You know, there's businesses, there's residences, there's a church. There's a lot of people there that don't want to see that block, smashed up and done for an extension of the station. And people are advocating for through running so that you won't need all of those spaces in the station. Trains can continue either to Queens or New Jersey. Or Long Island, sure. So there's a lot of advocacy for through running. I don't know where you'll have to build some additional yards on those final destinations if you do the through running. Although New Jersey Transit does have a yard in New Brunswick and at Trenton, so.
And Sunnyside.
Yeah, and Long Island has some at various branches, but that's something that we're going to see how that works out. You may have heard that whereas you used to, when the Eagle team checked bus fare payment, they stopped the bus and they went and visited every passenger. They're now doing it with the buses continuing to move with the new instrument they have, the electronic instrument that will check your phone or your Metro or your Omni to see if you have paid recently. So that is now less delays on buses due to fare checking, but bus fare evasion remains higher, much higher than subway. It's over 60% still. And I was on an M86 westbound crosstown bus, and 7 people got on one of the rear doors at Madison Avenue, and not one of them tapped. And that's just repeated everywhere. So it's just a crime of opportunity. It's not a crime of poverty. These are I saw these people. It's not people that were not able to pay the fare. So it's a shame. And hopefully it has been years since I've seen an Eagle team on a bus, and I ride buses, and I haven't seen an Eagle team in over 3 years now.
I definitely seen them in Brooklyn.
Well, I'm glad they're out there, and they're not on just SBSs. They're on all kinds of buses, but I haven't seen them. All right. So G-Train weekend shutdowns, which have been a real controversy, especially for many businesses in Greenpoint. They say they're losing businesses when those happen. In Greenpoint, as opposed to like Williamsburg or Bed-Stuy, it is the only subway line there. So the businesses have come out, elected officials have come out asking the MTA not to do that. But so far, they have changed some of those weekend shutdowns because there were big events happening in Greenpoint and Williamsburg, and they didn't want to impede those. But right now they're scheduled for 3 weekends in June, 2 weekends in August, 1 weekend in September, and 3 weekends in December. This is all because they have discovered that the tunnel under Newtown Creek between 21st Street and Greenpoint Avenue is in worse shape than they found before, and they need to do that work. They are installing 5G along the CBTC corridor, which is going to make trains it's going to make their response and their feeding into the signal much more quick. And they're going to do that on the Fulton Street CBTC line as well. So they're going to do it on Culver, they're going to do it on Fulton Street, and they're going to do it on the G line. And these are all going to get 5G CBTC, which will make service more frequent and faster, because these signals are amazing, these 5G signals. But unfortunately, it means shutting down for some redoing. But in this case, I think it's the tunnel on the Newtown Creek that's the most important thing. We don't want to see any of our obviously they've done a lot of work on the under river tunnels, but this tunnel is the G Train's exclusive tunnel between Court Square and Brooklyn. So yes, Sharon.
You said December and everyone's Christmas shopping in December. Why wouldn't it be November? I mean, what?
Everybody's Thanksgiving in November.
One day.
Yeah. I'm sure they will schedule it so that it has the least impact. And hopefully, maybe they'll get so much work done. They've been asked to do it overnights instead of weekends. But I've heard Demetrius and Jano both say the setup to get ready for this takes hours, so that you can't get nearly as much done in an overnight as you can on a weekend. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do more overnights, it seems to me. But this is what they want to do, and we will see how this plays out. Perhaps they'll get more work done than they expected, and the December shutdowns won't be necessary. But we will see.
And that there are some people who think that maybe it would be more beneficial to just shut it down for a month.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand why there was the major full outage a few summers ago, I guess 2024 at this point.
Yeah, 20.
And so I think
How long was that outage, Aaron?
It was the full summer in 2024, remember?
July and August.
They did it in 2 segments or maybe 3 segments over summer of 24. But I
With
think,
shuttle bus replacements?
yes, it was
Yeah.
completely shuttle buses for almost the entire summer. But from a communications perspective, a lot of people don't understand why that was necessary. They thought that it would be totally done, and now they don't see any end in sight. Now of course, they couldn't have anticipated the issues with the tunnel.
Or the conversion to 5G.
Yes, it just seemed, from a comms perspective, people don't understand why this seems to be going on forever, and would perhaps rather have just 1 or 2 months of full work so that it doesn't have to go on indefinitely.
There is one geo they are doing, and it's coming up. It's the accessibility improvement, which is Classic Station, which Kalia and Jason and Debbie and I were all there.
At Classen Avenue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to do the platform edges too, because it does show on the Capitol what they've been doing, ripping a piece of the station and lift it up a little. And people are forgetting that to do that, you have to shut the power down. You can't run a train.
So that's the perfect kind of project to do.
Yeah.
During the other work, but I think still it makes total. As a G train rider, Kara has been living this for quite some time.
And now, of course, you know that there's a push to have weekend G service continue to Forest Hills to replace the loss of the M train, during weekends.
Yeah.
So that you'll still have 2 local services. This would be the G and the R
Yes.
instead of the M and the R.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
But we don't know where that's going to go.
Considering there won't be any G train on weekends,
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I had to talk about. Do we have a quorum now?
Yes, we do.
All right, then can we get an approval of today's agenda?
Motion to approve,
I thought you were going to say that.
because I'm going express, not local.
Yeah. Thought you were a G train rider.
No, I'm a B express train.
Oh, okay. Okay, how about the minutes? Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes as submitted?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. And I think you're up, Lisa.
So
Thank you. Team PCAC has,
Questions in chat.
do you want to do questions on
Yeah.
your reports?
Sure, we can take some questions. Mr. X.
That is Mr.
Mr. X, your hand is up and
Gotta unmute.
have the floor.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, regarding the G train, is there a possibility it may carry the full train length? And is there a possibility it could be extended to Parsons Boulevard and 179th Street on the local tracks only?
I know that when all of this work is done, they are talking about restoring the G train to full length. No more G train shuffle like you had to run, remember, because they were so short. There is some talk after a recent weekend GO of possibly extending the G train from Church Avenue to Coney Island because it was so popular and would give people in northern Brooklyn and parts of Queens a fast ride to Coney Island. But I have not heard any talk about extending it to 179th Street.
Or Parsons Boulevard?
No, I haven't heard any of that.
I'd like to see that happen.
They need more train car center.
Yeah, no, they're talking about extending the length of the G when all of this work is done. That's for sure.
Okay, question, when will it be done?
That's the question.
That's a
an
great
excellent
question. According to the, as Andy Byford would say, schedule that I just saw, it would be after the work in December, if everything goes according to plan. So by 2027,
Maybe.
hopefully it's all over. But there's no guarantees and nobody has guaranteed it.
And Andrew, there are times if the F is really delayed, they do send the G down to Coney Island because they have done that a couple of times when there is a major gap and they tell the G, change your sign, you're going to Coney Island. Everybody realizes it has to come in, stop in the middle because it's
It's not as long. Yes,
a 5-car train.
yes. Okay,
I'll say if they keep using your 211s, those are 5-car contests, right?
Yes.
Well, the open, right, so then there would be a 10-car.
talking about the regular versus the open car
The
open
open
gangway.
The open gangways are,
They're not all open gangways on the G.
right.
R211A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
R211As, right.
There's, I think, 2. Gangway.
Okay, hold on a second.
I think Brian was next.
Yeah, Ryan was next.
So regarding the G train, honestly, if anything, if the NTA doesn't have enough 600-foot long trains available for the G could switch to 480-foot trains instead of 300-foot. And also regarding the extension to Coney Island, I read somewhere that Coney Island Terminal on the Culver Line cannot handle so many trains. So I think the G train could be extended from Church Avenue to Kings Highway. And then to compensate for that, the F train, I think, should run at about 10 trains per hour. And to make up for F train service, the E can run at about 20 trains per hour. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know that extending the G just to Kings Highway would appeal to them because they'd still have to make a train switch to get to the beach. So I'm not sure that's as appealing just to go from Church Avenue to Kings Highway. But it may have something to do with the tower at Coney Island and how quickly they can get Fs and Gs in and out. It's really busy there, needless to say. So, but I can certainly inquire about that. That's a good
Right.
point. That's a very good point.
Okay, I say Kings Highway instead of Church Avenue because Kings Highway, as you might know, has a center track for terminating trains without delaying trains behind.
It does indeed.
Church Avenue has it more turnaround.
Stuart shaking his head no.
It absolutely delays trains.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the F Express that,
I ride the F Express
Okay.
in the morning and in the.
so the locals,
And
yes,
there's been issues in the evening, not in the morning.
there aren't that many F Expresses either.
Right,
Yeah.
520 at J Street
Yeah.
gets to Church Avenue at 30. there are issues down the line. Because of trains going into the pocket at Kings Highway, that you're frequently delayed at Avenue P or stop before Avenue I, waiting for other trains to cycle back out.
They do take a
because the
long
access
time.
significantly delayed, and that's something I'll bring up in new business over the last 3 weeks. Significant delays in the evening. They've not run trains express, but they've shortened the run so that you get off at the Kings Highway and then the train goes express to Coney Island and not stopping at
Avenue X,
or Neptune.
Yeah.
Or West Days. So they're trying to get them further down the line. So it disenfranchises people
Do they,
like me.
do they make announcements
Yeah,
to tell you what's going on?
sure. But
Get out. In
And
their
then-
defense, they're getting orders from real control.
Yeah,
There must be some issue that has caused this lately.
yeah, the delays further up the
Yes.
line and then they're catching up at church and then trying.
I will find
Look at
out
all that.
what has caused
Well, that's
that.
3 weeks. It's
Sometimes now they-
significant. Yeah.
Since they're on the E line, it does cause them delay because if something goes wrong, then it's a chain reaction comes in. But
Did you say a
sometimes,
train reaction?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very huge.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like the ripple effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta come.
Okay, Jesse, you were next.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Are you?
How are you?
Happy Gemini season. Happy earlier birthday to Jason Anthony. Yeah, Eagle teams were out there yesterday where I live in Bay Ridge. They were very professional and all that good stuff. And a couple of riders on the G line. I'm a G line rider too, and they asked me what's going on with the service change. I said I don't have any answers for you on that. So the only solution I said just contact your local elected officials and all that other stuff. So that's it. No, I have no further information for them. That's it.
Yeah, several elected officials have spoken about the G train shutdowns on weekends, and they are trying to help the businesses in certainly in Greenpoint who have spoken up about this. But they do understand that this work must be done, and the sooner they get it done, the better it'll be for everybody.
Jesse, you might also suggest that people sign up for the Weekender newsletter so that they know in advance what to expect.
All right. Well, since tonight is the IBX workshop in Ridgewood, I will board that G train and I will give the riders the information to sign up for the Weekender.
Great.
So
That's, I look at it every week just to see what we're in store for on the 7th.
And there's also there's a planned service section under the MTA's website, which you can do a shortcut to, and it'll tell you every line and what's going to happen. Just give it the time that you're talking about. If it's during the week, if it's the weekend, and that's very accurate as well.
Not on buses.
No.
No, there's not work.
Okay, Deborah, I think you might have been next.
Jason was next. It goes in order.
Oh, it's in order, really?
Yeah.
Okay, then, sorry. Jason, you're next.
Regarding the G train being extended to Coney Island, there has to be a deal, first of all, on the F. Because it already occurred during a couple of weekends ago. So the F train was running to Euclid Avenue. And that's why we had the G to Coney Island. So that's why, in order to run the G to Coney Island, we had to run the F train to Euclid Avenue. And that's why, in order to have the G to Coney Island, the F train has to run to Euclid, and having a GO somewhere between either the Rutgers Tube or somewhere between J Street and Bergen Street. And if we're gonna do the whole, let's say, Greenpoint Tube shutdown, it has to be done. Those residents of Greenpoint if something bad was discovered, fine. If we have to wait until 2027 to get it done, fine. We could deal with the shuttle buses and having Fam on Hero Samora to get the work done. Because
Well, you say fine, but everybody else doesn't say fine.
Right.
we know, but having Hero Samora at the G Train czar, previously he got the work done. If we have him again, we could get the work done.
Yes, we do, but not a lot of people liked the F train going to Euclid Avenue, and that affected A and C service, so I don't see that as a long-term solution for this.
We know, Andrew, but 1 weekend or two
Yeah,
doesn't affect much.
no, that's not, but that's all it takes.
But 3.2 has to get fixed.
Yeah.
Because if not, we could have a superstorm Sandy in steroids, and then it's gonna get much worse.
Absolutely. Thank you. Deborah, you're
You're
next.
Okay, in reference with the F and the G, after the F leaves Avenue X, it goes to 2 tracks. 2, that's it, no third track. And even it goes into Still. There's a lot of times you can see the F's backed all the way, and what Stuart said was correct, because I can see it out my window if I choose to look at it that way. But there is something that could help in the future. When they finally open up the elevator at Kings Highway of the F train, the B82 bus does go into Coney Island. And if they want to try to extend these, they could set up like an SBS bus that goes on the weekends to Stillwell to drop off riders if they have to, so they can get to the beach, because they have the elevator working, they'll be able to get down. The other thing with the G train, and I'm going to say this gets me a little annoyed, for 3-4 years, my part of Brooklyn lost a lot of service to Go Express, because they had to do major work on the Manhattan Bridge. They had to do a lot of work on the trains, the tracks and everything. And we had to, and along also the Brighton line. And you didn't see us going crazy and complaining. Yet every time there's a little problem with the G train, they go out of them. They go crazy. My mother grew up using the G and the L. And you know what? You also have buses that can take them to accessible stations to get on off. And I get annoyed because if we try to complain, we were shut down. But everybody can't wait to listen to the G riders complaining. And I find that very annoying and very disrespectful, because my end, we had to take buses to get around just to where we lived, because they were working on stations, either going southbound or northbound. No one addressed what help we could use, but yet the minute a little something happens on the G train, oh my God, the poor people. And if I needed accessible, I had to go back to Stillwell and hope I could get up onto I would have to use the F or the D, even the N. So I get really tired of the complaints. Because
Right, and
Understood,
there's
Deborah.
so many places you could transfer from the F to the G. You don't have to wait till King to Church Avenue. I mean, you could do it at Curry, Carroll, Smith, I mean, all of these stations. So
yes, but I'm saying if they want to set up
accessibility.
there used to be.
You're on the same platform, so it's
No, I'm talking about accessibility to leave the train.
Oh, to leave the train. Yeah, that's
That's
definitely
what I'm
limiting.
saying.
Okay,
Right.
thanks, Deborah.
And also, you could do what they used to do years ago for the N train. It used to be called the Sea Beach Express that would take riders into
Yes, it was.
Stillwell, and they could
Yep.
restore that again.
Yeah, that was great. That was fast.
Yep, Mother did it all
Okay.
the time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew, I have a question for you. X's hand was already.
Yeah, you've already done it. We're not doing that again. So, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, on your report, when you mentioned about the stations. There was one station you and I did attend, as well as Debbie, and Kalia came in later. You know, now 125th Street is also now getting an accessible
Yes,
station too.
Thanks to Columbia University.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
do want to say thank you for the Columbus because, and the community over there.
Thanks to Columbia University.
And because the community was.
Yes, people have been waiting over 20 years and speaking at various community boards and various community meetings about making the 125th Street #1 station accessible. It is finally happening thanks to Columbia University, the zoning for accessibility law, and the fact that they're putting a lot of buildings adjacent to the station.
Yeah.
In fact, if the Q line gets extended west across 125th Street, that will make 125th and Broadway a complex almost. They were talking about that during the press conference.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. We're time limited, so now it's up to you, Lisa.
Okay, great,
Can I
thank
just ask one more thing about the F line? Related to the G. So if there's talk about enhanced G service through to Coney Island for beachgoers or whatever. Where are we with the F line painting project? Seems to have stalled for the last 6 months.
Painting of the elevated structures, you mean?
When they finished the signaling project, they started painting portions of the line in segments. And they seem to just stop abruptly
Do you know where you think they've stopped?
in different segments there.
Oh, I'll ask.
So the segment between, it's not important right now, but the segment between UX and Neptune hasn't been fully completed. Segment from Neptune to West 8th Street hasn't been completed. There's still work further up the line. So if they do that on weekends, I don't know how that would interfere with a beach plan, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I'll have to ask that.
They probably have to shut it down to do that one.
Anthony Roman knows about it because he's the one.
Yeah.
But that's what their signaling work that they,
Yeah,
you know, even though they've painted some spots, they've started to do steel work in some spots.
They do the painting obviously after the steel work.
Double.
Definitely after.
Work,
yeah. Okay, Lisa, you're up.
But one station that you didn't also mention was a contract at the board meeting for Metz Point.
Everybody heard that, so
I know,
Yeah, but you have to
everybody
mention
heard
it.
it.
that's your thing.
Yes, it is. So thank you for leaving that to me. Let's go Mets. There was a contract that was approved at the board last week for Mets Point for the subway that would begin the design process just for the subway station. It's a complicated project, as everybody knows, and also as everybody knows, something that we at PCC as a whole have been very interested in for decades now, pre me and my Metsies, but looking at both stations there. So that's something we continue to be interested in and are pursuing. You may have seen that the legislature both houses of the legislature have passed the budget finally. If you have the city and state bingo card of, I think it was 59 days late, you may have won a towel or a throw that they were offering. I think I still was in early April for that one, but there are a lot of components to the budget. Most of the transportation and transit related aspects are in the TEDE section, which is vast and which is where a lot of other policy issues that are unrelated to transportation are also placed. However, some good news. Our specific focal pieces were not included in the budget related to fare policy, related to our rider legislation, related to our council legislation were not included. That doesn't mean that they're DOA, it just means that they weren't included in the budget. And we still have some work to do on those pieces. But there was funding for the Scout program, which is a better approach to meeting people's needs in the subway. And there was also funding for both the Jamaica design project and redesign project, and also the Westward Ho extension, design Westward Ho extension for 125th Street, which is terrific. There's other movement that has been discussed for other transit bridge opportunities on 125th Street that that I'll let Brian talk about when he follows up with some other things on that, and also Fair Fares. We have been hard at work on a number of things. As you know, I was out. I always like to thank the incredible team at PCAC for doing everything. When you, as a person, are out on disability, you're not allowed to work or they take it away. So everybody was just tremendous and incredible in stepping in, standing in, especially as we are one person shy. So everybody was 125 or 150 to 200% in everything. So thank you guys again. In that regard, our pursuit of filling the hole that Jack dug us it continues. So hopefully we'll have more on that in the weeks ahead. Brian?
Yeah, so just a few updates at the city level. We had a really great council hearing on Fair Fares at the beginning of the month. Big thank you to Kalia and Chris and Deborah for coming out to testify. Really appreciated it. We had a great turnout of riders and advocates supporting both the expansion of the Fair Fares program to 300% of the federal poverty level, the council's push for deepening affordability for folks currently getting Fair Fares to make it fully free, and also supporting Councilmember Hudson's bill, Intro 248, which would implement automatic enrollment for the program. Some big things that came out of the hearing, just two quick points. You know, HRA made it clear that there are a couple 100,000 New York City residents who are in their system, but not receiving the Fair Fares benefit that they have, regular contact with because they're receiving other programs that they know to be income eligible, but they still are not getting Fair Fares, which is pretty disappointing. And I think even worse, nearly half of Fair Fares users lose their benefits when it comes time to renew them every year, which is a really dismal statistic and makes it, really reinforces the point that not only is it really difficult to get enrolled in the program because it's an onerous process, but people are losing their benefits very regularly when it comes time to renew because the renewal process isn't much easier than getting enrolled the first time. So
How frequently is the renewal process?
every year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's annoying.
yeah. So we're really hopeful that we're working very closely with Councilmember Hudson's office to get her bill passed at some point this year. We don't have a definite schedule or any action items quite yet. But we'll certainly let you know if and when the time comes to push on that. But on the budget process, we've got a month left to push the mayor's office to include Fair Fares expansion in the final budget. So we're pulling out our final stops to try to pull that over the finish line between now and the end of June.
But they included the same amount of funding for the same level of eligibility.
Yeah.
So but the speaker's office is also very intent on expanding that eligibility.
Yep. So,
and I just want to say Brian has really led the charge on this, and the research and data that Kara has provided and Benji have been instrumental in helping to make the case, and are also being used by other organizations. And the not the Independent Budget Office, who's Andrew Ryan, the Citizens Budget Commission actually came out with a recommendation to increase eligibility to 250% of the federal poverty level. Not quite the 300%, but still,
Better.
this is the first time they've made a recommendation like that. And it was tremendous, and they got a lot of coverage on that, and that could help to move the needle too.
That's
And
great.
that was also based in large part on the work that this office has done. So,
Yeah, it's been really great to see so many organizations pick up the agenda that we put together last year and you know, but some of them have put their own spins on it, but you know, they've by and large all lined up with what we've suggested, which has been really great to see. The other city item that we've been very focused on, obviously, is faster and more reliable bus service. We've met much more frequently with New York City DOT since the change in administration, which has been really refreshing. MTA, you know, as a whole has been at the table regularly. They've been partnering on all the projects that have been going. We expect a major announcement sometime in the not too distant future on what the administration's vision is going to be for the foreseeable future. The mayor's already teased some elements of it in his recent speeches, so more details to come on that fairly soon. But we'll keep pushing on that as well.
I want to add that the report that Henry produced was really a solid basis for a lot of the conversations that are happening around bus rapid transit and the routes or routes that are being discussed that have also attracted the attention of the council majority leader and transportation infrastructure committee leader, Sean Abreu. Abreu. So really tremendous work there has been cited.
And then at the state level, we have, you know, our suite of bills in our legislative proposal that we'll be making a push for now that the budget has finally mercifully wrapped up. One City, One Fare not being included in the budget means that we can push for it as a standalone bill. We have the Rider Rep Act, of course, to give voting rights to our members on the MTA board. The Rider Act, which make some changes to our authorizing legislation to make it easier and faster to make appointments or make nominations for the councils. It's especially important for LARCC where we have so many vacancies. And we also have another change that's just specific to the LARCC bill, which is just waiting to pass the full Senate. It has passed the Assembly and passed the Senate committee, the Transportation Committee. So we're going to get that one over the finish line for sure. But working on the other ones too. I expect a lot of movement on both the House and Senate calendars in the last few weeks of session. So.
Yeah, it's almost over. I think they've got, because it's an election year, they have one or only 2 weeks left. Not a lot of session days because the budget went so long.
Yeah, it's going to be a scramble.
Karen?
Research.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, thank you.
I would also like to thank the team for helping out with especially Brian at his real literal crack of dawn assist at the Long Island Railroad strike. Going out and meeting people who are the early arrivals from Long Island who came in on the buses. I went out and I just told the buses where to go. You know, that would be more my style.
Did the buses respond?
They did. They were like,
Yeah, because she has the power of her hand.
she's just moving I was just a shuffler. But Brian was out there meeting and greeting and even got his picture in the city.nyc.
He was also on he was on ABC7.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Nothing more beautiful than watching the sunrise over the Howard Beach Air Train.
right.
And good place to eat.
Poetic. Thank you.
Yes, on the research front, we have 2 reports in development at the moment. One that is nearing completion that Benji's working on the Interborough Express and looking at ridership patterns and the types of riders who will benefit from the IBX once it's built, people who are already making those trips along the IBX route who will benefit from much, much faster trips, and then also people who aren't currently traveling, a whole bunch of really cool maps that are in development. And so we're hoping to get that out very soon. Second report that you've heard about is Henry's report that he's working on right now on signage and wayfinding. It's also coming along nicely. We're going to be doing some visits to some stations in the coming weeks. So if anyone has any recommendations or areas that they really have noticed recently, another call for suggestions at any point in this research process.
Can we paint the
No,
decals
no,
orange and blue? Orange and blue, go Knicks.
I thought you were going
Different
to say
kind of
that.
signage, but
It's signage.
yes, well,
Knickerbocker Avenue, you mean?
a bad idea.
I'm surprised that nobody's done that already.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do
But
it.
there's something on that station though.
Yeah,
Somebody did something, I'm sure.
It wasn't me.
You sure it wasn't you, Andrew?
It wasn't me.
I'll do a little
Yes.
Knickerbocker station thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we just want to make sure that any feedback from members is being incorporated. Henry's doing some really great mock-ups and taking some pictures and adding our dream signage to some visuals in the report. And so if there's any other key stations or intersections that you think would benefit from better signage, please do let us know in the coming weeks, because we're hoping to wrap that up at some point in the future. Those are the two main reports that we're working on right now.
Oh, Henry,
it's
just drive you nuts.
And as always, we're open to suggestions for reports. There is one of our most recent reports was recommended by Stewart about ridership, post-congestion pricing. We're always open to new ideas from members. Thank you.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to be participating in a TRB Transportation Research Board webinar as one of the panelists on congestion pricing. And that looks at the role of advocacy. That's my component piece. And I'm going to integrate that, like to integrate that into my slides.
Well, I just want to say on signage, and I don't think this is part of the report you're going to do, but the old style countdown clocks in the subways that hang from the ceiling and have a certain kind of print are not quite as accurate as the new ones or the new out front panels that have countdown clocks.
Yeah,
I've noticed a discrepancy in those.
Yeah, they had mentioned that at our last meeting. And by the way, my 4-5 that I took the other day, in the morning, 19 minutes from Grand Central. So I'm not sure if that was added service, but.
Also, can I add something? Because it's also, we also need to look at boarding signages. Somehow I'm seeing that they're getting stolen. Or they're not, or if they do remove them, it's not in the right spot.
boarding signage.
Or except like, if say Kalia or Juliet or Debbie, because they have to get on where the conductor is. The boarding signs are not in the places anymore. It's disappeared. It's like we're seeing them getting stolen. Yes.
For both that and the elevators, I wish there was just a standard, like big sign that you could read on both sides, that you would put where the elevator is and put where the boarding is. Because I wander around trying to find, and it should be a standard.
A big sign, a big sign.
You know, and a
Yeah.
big one, and you can see from both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was brought up to Q also, but I think it still needs to be brought up to Grand Central, Penn Station,
Oh,
or a lot of the big stations.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
saying it quick, so.
So we can continue this after, but our wonderful speaker, Rachel Cohn, who is Vice President of Paratransit, is here after many requests to be able to ask her some questions. And as I mentioned earlier, with record ridership, it's really timely that we hear from Rachel. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. We've got folks on Zoom too. Hi, Deborah. Yes. Okay. You go ahead. Yeah. So thank you all for having me. I didn't know it took many requests. I don't think I'm that hard a person to get a hold of, but
yeah, right.
We felt that right.
Not to you.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy to be here. So I have a presentation. Some of this though is going to be things that, I know many of you are at the board of in committees every month.
Hello.
You before. Thanks for joining us. Just getting started. So I hope it's not, too repetitive, but I want to make sure that everybody's kind of got the same background and context. And also this is I know a group of friendly folks, so please feel free to jump in questions. I'm happy for it to be more conversational.
We're going to let you get through your presentation and then we'll take questions.
All right, and we'll take them from council members first and then from the.
Then
All right.
public.
And then I'll direct them to Q for the hard ones. I don't want to.
We're gonna direct Q, them all to Q. Right, no,
Well, we'll see.
I know for the rest of our meetings.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, yeah, actually, you just missed a piece on elevator signage that I caught the end of. That sounds like it's. Anyway, it's actually a good place to start. So if, can I control those slides?
Yes, you just have to. So you can go forward, but not upward, which.
Always only forward. I got it.
That, go back, right there.
So this is actually a good place to start. It's good to just be sitting here together with you, Q. Again, I mean, I know many of you, I think, most of you know before I've been in this role with paratransit for about 2 years. Prior to that, spent 5 years working with Q and on, prior iterations of the MTA, the New York City Transit Accessibility Team, and then the MTA Accessibility Team. So, I always think about paratransit in the context of the MTA's broader vision for transit accessibility. And our teams work, very, very closely together. I think we are kind of more than ever, like really living this vision of, what does a fully accessible transit system look like? And how do we coordinate so that, paratransit customers can better take advantage of our bus and subway system as we increasingly invest in, making the fixed route system accessible. But also that, customers with disabilities know that paratransit is an option and are, sort of aware of all the options, what may be the best, option on any given day, on any given trip. It's not a one or the other, right? It's just the reality of transit, the reality of New York, as all of you know, is that, different trips call for different modes, different needs on different days. So we're frankly trying to get smarter, I think, as an agency about, how we think about the whole system and how customers, like a real life way, interact with transit, and we can give them, the best options for their trip. And also, and this will be a theme throughout, wisely, responsibly invest the public dollar in our transit system, right? Paratransit is a very expensive mode on a per trip basis. We're doing a lot to try to address, the efficiency of the system, but that's the reality at the end of the day, right? So how do you balance all these things? I won't spend a lot of time here, right? Again, I know, folks in the room here are, relatively familiar, right, with what we do, but Access-Ride is the MTA's required complementary paratransit system, right, under the ADA. Transit providers must have an option for those who aren't able to access the fixed route system, either for some of their trips or for all of their trips. Everybody who's eligible for paratransit has gone through an assessment process. And the purpose of that is that paratransit eligibility, it's not a medical diagnosis, right? It's based on each individual's functional ability to use the transit system, to get the fixed route transit system to get around. And I think one of the other important components of this is that we have a lot of customers, and some of them are in this room on the phone or good friends of those who are, right, who will use subway or bus for some of their trips, paratransit for some of their trips, sometimes taking paratransit to get to the fixed route system. Right, there's a lot of diversity among the needs and the uses of our customers, and that's something that also is part of that assessment process. We provide service 24/7, 365. There's no limits. You can take as many trips as you want or need to take on any given day. No different schedules on nights or on weekends. Everywhere, right, that the subway and bus goes, which is everywhere in the 5 boroughs, is where paratransit goes. The piece at the top, paratransit under the ADA, right? The nomenclature is a safety net service. And I think this is misunderstood. When we think about the safety nets, paratransit is not just the safety net for the transit system. It's really like the mobility safety net for the city of New York. So even when the subway and bus, and I say when, not if, right, are 100% ADA accessible, we will still need paratransit, right? Because there are people that won't be able to get to the subway or bus or won't be able to navigate, even an ADA compliant subway or bus system. So it's really the safety net that's, catching all of those circumstances, including things like, a lot of your former work, you're right, getting curb cuts and accessible pedestrian signals, like all the city infrastructure that we don't control at the MTA that creates challenges for accessibility. Paratransit's kind of catching, safety net, making up for a lot of those accessibility barriers as well. And that's really important because it's part of why it's a city-state partnership, right? From an operational perspective and from a funding perspective as well. So this is a slide that, again, I'm sure some of you saw in some of the past presentations, but just to, again, kind of put into real experience, paratransit is described as, is required to be complementary to the fixed route transit system, but that doesn't mean exactly the same. Like that's just not possible, right? From a pragmatic point of view, paratransit is origin to destination service. There's no transfers, right? We're taking you from exactly where you say you're starting to exactly where you say you need to go, bless you. And in some ways, right, that's providing a higher level of service, of course, than the fixed route system. But what we're trying to do is provide the same kind of access to the city, access to opportunity as the subway and bus do, but obviously done in a different way in terms of the mode of service. So just to to put that to life, right? We kind of drew out this example of somebody taking the same trip, same origin, same destination. What does it look like on paratransit versus what does it look like on fixed route? So paratransit is all scheduled 1 to 2 days in advance. This customer, Jim, right, has been deemed eligible for paratransit the night before his trip. He can go onto the MTA app and book the trip. Gets notification throughout the process, as I mentioned, right, direct origin to destination service. Gets to the office the next day for his meeting. First, taking that trip on fixed route, right, where obviously it does not need to be booked 1 to 2 days out by the customer. And the wait time windows and expectations will be different, but you have these added elements of, transit to and from your fixed route stop, potentially transferring, having other people, share the ride along the way. So again, I don't want to belabor this point, but I think we're just, trying to help both the users of our system and those who are, invested one way or the other in paratransit understand that, when we say complementary, it does not mean, that the two things are going to be exactly the same, but it means that they share similar, right? And at transit, our goal for everybody is safe, reliable service, right? And that's what we're trying to provide. And look, what we're doing here in New York in terms of Access-Ride is not just paratransit on a massive scale, but as Chair Lieber loves to say, right, we're providing paratransit service that's like the size of most mid-sized cities' fixed route bus system. And these numbers are like almost outdated the minute they hit the slide. We've seen, huge ridership growth post-pandemic, particularly since 2024. We're now providing almost 50% more service than we were at our pre-pandemic peaks. That's from a combination of, improved service reliability, right? People are using it more because they can get where they need to go. Demographics, challenges people face with other parts of the system. It's a combination of all those things. The net result, though, is, we're growing at unprecedented rates. So we now have over 200,000 eligible customers. We have, I think, 49,900 trips scheduled for today, and this is not a peak day. And we're doing it all with our dedicated vehicles, the blue and gold vans, right, that everybody knows, and this huge network of taxi and for-hire vehicles that we work with through our broker program. So every night, my team in Long Island City is taking, up to 50,000 unique trip requests and piecing them together into this puzzle that is the next day's schedule. That's a very complex exercise, and it requires balancing, all these different factors on any given day. We did over 11 million trips last year, serving over 16 million total riders. We're certainly on track to, to best that number this year. We're now doing 1 million trips in our busy months. And, of course, like all this comes at cost. We have a lot of efforts underway to manage our cost per trip, some of which I'll touch on. But this year, we're projected to have an operating budget that exceeds $900 million.
And that number continues to grow as the service grows, of course. So I think paratransit is an incredible sort of turnaround story for the MTA, and it's because of Q and Chris Pangilinan and President Critchlow and our chair and leadership that have made choices to invest in paratransit as a critical element of the overall accessible transit system. I know, and I'm sorry, I should have said this at the top. I got the list of your kind of topic areas, right? I'm going to try to touch on most of them. I know vehicles was one of them. So we have about 1,100 vehicles in the fleet. Almost half of those vehicles are new in the last less than 5 years. So we've invested a lot in new vehicles in the last few years, and that continues. We'll be getting about 100 additional new paratransit vans in 2026. Those vehicles, newer vehicles, obviously more reliable, smoother ride. In particular, though, new lifts, right? We're putting larger lifts on some of our vehicles to accommodate mobility devices, which get larger over time, and new wheelchair securement systems. So you can see it in the bottom image here. But one of the traditional customer pain points for customers who use wheelchairs is, those very clunky securement systems, and you lose one of the four, Q-strength devices, and then how do you secure them? So these new systems, which I'd be curious if anybody here has used, the securement's built into that platform. You can kind of see on the floor in the bottom image, and it's much easier and faster for the driver to use. The securement devices auto retract, for tension. It's really a nice new feature, and something that we've done a lot of testing to try to improve the experience, again, for customers and for drivers. We've grown the broker program. We have about 10,000 drivers that take Access-a-Ride trips now in a given month, and it's a huge benefit to the TLC driver community as well. We've done a lot of work at our call center to make the process of taking calls go faster. So less time on hold, less time on the phone, more time getting where you need to go. We've seen huge growth with the My AAR app. More than a quarter of our trips are now booked on the app. Again, time savings for the customer. And I would say just as importantly, it means our call center agents can be there to support, the more complicated transactions, day of service issues, and getting folks through the call center more quickly. And then finally, I know Omni also was a topic of interest. So we have sent Omni cards to all paratransit customers. We did have a printing issue in March, April of this year, which we have since resolved. So we did have some customers I know that were waiting for replacement cards. They've now all been processed and sent out in the last few days. And I'm pretty excited to see we're getting it's early days, right? But we're getting Omni adoption. We have 10-15% of paratransit customers are now paying for their trips with Omni, which is it's a huge leap forward, right? They skipped the MetroCard era. Paratransit trips were, an all cash, exact change, hand-to-hand transaction. And now having Omni as an option, not a requirement, but an option for customers, again, I think is a great, example of technology to improve the customer experience. 2025 was a huge year for us. I'm not going to go through every single stat. I think they kind of speak for themselves. And I've touched on some of them. The only other thing I wanted to highlight was the outreach events. So we have really amped up our outreach program. We have always had a small but mighty outreach team at Paratransit, right, that goes out and explains to people how to register, answers a lot of regular questions about day-to-day service. But in the last year or so, we've been partnering much more closely with Q's team, with government community relations, and trying to make our outreach events, frankly, more like this, more conversational and more about empowering our customers. So we will sit with people one-on-one, say, okay, how do we onboard you onto using the app? How do you use Omni? Do you know, that you could use the bus for this trip or that trip? So make it a much more, like I said, sort of collaborative and empowering workshop kind of session, and less of we're going to come, we're going to talk at you for half an hour, and then you're going to complain at us for half an hour, right? The sort of traditional government outreach model. And I think we've found a lot of success there, right? We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and we're seeing it pay off because people are using these tools, and we're hearing from them about it.
And look, this is the, kind of net result of all of it, right? We've all been there for the, the committee meetings of old, with some very not satisfied paratransit customers. And this is not a slide to, meant to say mission accomplished, right? There are lots of things that we're working on to improve the system. There are lots of challenges, but I think that the combination of, the customer satisfaction and the growing ridership speaks volumes about, the quality and the reliability of the service. And these are quotes, unsolicited, sort of open quotes from our customer surveys, which, talk about the improvements to the system, the necessity of paratransit, right? The lifeline it provides. And I think are, again, not that we do everything perfectly. I would never say that. But I think that the customers who have, especially those who've been using paratransit for a long time, have seen, the changes over time and what they're able to do on paratransit that maybe they weren't able to do before. Almost to the end here, and I'm going to talk about taxi because I know that's one of the things people want to hear about. So some of the things that we're working on this year, again, just to continue to drive our system forward. We are working to procure cameras for the dedicated carrier fleet as an additional security and training initiative for our drivers. We are lucky on paratransit, right? We frankly don't face the same security challenges that, subway and bus face. Nonetheless, right, having cameras that can help as a driver training tool. And when there are, the rare but real incidents and accidents, to resolve those issues more quickly, I think is going to be a big asset for the system. On April 1st of this year, we went over to new contracts with our supplemental service providers who kind of provide like extra capacity for lift equipped vehicles. And I think that's going to improve the quality of that element of our service significantly. We are working on the broker driver language issue, which we hear about all the time at committee. We're partnering with CTG, who's our largest broker, to test a feature in their driver app that would provide like AI-based natural two-way language translation. So we'll be testing that later this year. I'll come back to taxi, but we are trying a couple of different pilots with AI not for again the day of service, where's my vehicle issues or significant safety concerns, but common things like somebody calls to cancel their trip. If AI can take that call, right, the agent can be available for somebody that needs human-based assistance for a more complicated interaction. And I've touched on outreach and Omni. And I guess the last thing I would say is, I'm a big data analytics person. So we have so much data, right? How do we use it? Just as an example, one of the things that we're really digging deep on is no-show trips. So, I see you nodding along, Kalia, right? Any paratransit customer will tell you. Don't say anything. Oh, we'll tell you, hopefully very rarely, right? But that they have experienced a time when, the driver said they were there, but the customer said they weren't. So it's to some extent, it's a he said, she said, right? We're not there on 50,000 trips. So what do we do, right? So we're working again to use our data to identify trends. Are there certain parts of the city, times of day, companies where you seem to have these misconnections more than others? Is it because we don't have the right phone number? Is it GPS? Is it both? We're trying to drive a smarter approach. Matt's awesome on the phone. Wow. Interesting. To again take like a more strategic approach to that issue. And that's just one example. Let me just touch on taxi. So this again, I know has been a hot topic and an area of significant and totally legitimate concern from some of our customers. So taxi authorization is a program where you can get pre-approval if you're taking a trip within the same borough or to a transportation hub. Customers book the taxi they get the authorization from paratransit ahead, book the taxi on their own, and then basically send us the receipt for reimbursement with some rules around that. I put the flow up here just to make clear, this is a multi-step process, and paratransit does not control the pieces that the customer controls, right? If I take a trip tomorrow and I send my receipt in, 30 days from now, well, obviously we don't control that piece, but we're very focused on the red bubble. How can we reduce the time between when we get that receipt request and when we send the check out for processing? Our goal is to get that to a 60-day turnaround, and frankly, to stay under that. But what I want to be able to give customers is a consistent, reliable turnaround time that they can, plan for. And I know, Michael, this is something you've raised. It's people's ability to know what to expect, right? And to plan for what to expect is, I would argue, I guess, as critical a piece here as like, what's the exact number of days? So we're looking at staffing, we're looking at technology, we're looking at putting tax authorization in the My AAR app. I'm very confident that we will be driving that turnaround time number down in the coming months. And I'm happy to talk, in more detail about that if folks are interested. But this is definitely somewhere where, the growth in the volume has outpaced our ability to handle it. But we have the right, I think, ideas, strategies, techniques to catch up and to get back to where we need to be. And then the last, just to wrap up, I guess I know I've sort of touched on a lot of different places and covered a lot, but I think what we wanted to leave with is just an understanding that, again, this is paratransit. It's critical to our 200,000 customers. It's a critical piece of the MTA's overall approach to making the transit system accessible. And it's a significant and complicated challenge, from an operational perspective and a budget perspective. Our service is growing, which is great for the mobility of the customers we serve, but the contributions of the city of New York are not keeping up with that growth, right? So paratransit's always been funded by the city-state cost share. The way that cost share is structured, though, the city's contribution is capped. So as the service grows, as the budget grows, the MTA basically absorbs more of that growth. And we have some significant concerns about, the sustainability and the impact of that growing MTA share of the paratransit budget. So we are working very hard every day, to work with our city partners to ensure that they understand the importance, the value of the service, and what they get for their money, frankly, when, the city of New York invests in paratransit. And our goal is to ensure that as the service grows, the city's contribution, grows commensurate with that, right? So that the budget, the expense is shared, and we can continue to provide growing service, high quality service, like keep making all these improvements and continue down the track that we're on, and not, go back to places we've been in the past where nobody went. So that's certainly a major focus of ours for the next year. The current cost share agreement expires at the end of the fiscal year, so in July of 2027. You'll be probably hearing a lot more about this in the months to come, but I want to kind of tee up today that's a big piece of the picture as well. And that's a lot. Thank you for your patience on questions. I'm happy to take them.
Okay, who would like to go first?
What does that mean? I think, okay, I'll go first.
Ladies
I don't
first.
mind.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Rachel. That was amazing as always.
I know.
As I'm transparent as a member of this committee, I'm also an Access-a-Ride rider. If anybody online doesn't know, and Rachel did touch on a lot of the questions that I have had, and a lot of consumers come to us about. One of the things that a lot of customers come to me about why they don't want to use mass transit is for the fear of losing Access-a-Ride. If I use the fares that Access-a-Ride gives me on my Omni, will I lose my Access-a-Ride because I'm using the bus or the train? Will I lose my eligibility on paratransit? They're afraid of that, and that what role does predictability play for you in terms of the growth that we've seen? I think that plays a big role in the increase in ridership. Now we can predict and we can tell. It gives the riders more power in their trips, and that's what we really, really want. We want them to feel confident and empowered. We don't want people to feel left out or in the dark about their trips especially when they're riding. So I think predictability is a really, really, really important role in the growth of people planning trips. Even for myself, and I agree with you in that in April, even for myself, and on my own trips, I took at least almost 40 trips in April alone. I almost ran out of my own trips. I almost ran out of my trips in April. And I think what plays a big role in that is predictability. Be able to tell where the vehicle is. Be able to plan. If you want us to plan 24 hours in advance, let me know where my vehicle is.
Absolutely. And like, that's, to your second point, that's the point, right? That's the whole goal, right? Is to provide reliable service that people use. And again, that people use not just for, okay, once a week, right? I have this recurring appointment or, religious worship or whatever. It's the every day, right? I'm going to work, I'm going to school, I'm going to see my family and friends. And we see that in the trip data, right? The growth is more from the existing customer base using the service more than new customers coming on.
Yeah.
So that's a huge win. And I think the point that can't be overstated that, mobility, right? The mobility value of not just paratransit, but the zero fare, reduced fare, the investments in fixed route accessibility, like it's all going up at the same time. And that's, I think, a really interesting story that maybe isn't what people would expect. On the first point though, about, the fear of losing access, right? I mean, that is categorically untrue, right? And we say that in our materials, I'm sure you do. I don't know how else to allay the fear, but we simply do not look at people's use of subway and bus as any kind of indicator of their eligibility for paratransit. Full stop.
Thank you.
One second. If somebody uses the service to go to religious services, you can say they use it religiously. But I do have one important question, if you don't mind. Do each of these paratransit vehicles have sensors in them of some sort to alert management as to exactly where they are?
No, good idea.
Yes. Well, the vehicles that we own, right, the 1100 MTA owned fleet have AVLM, automated vehicle location monitoring, basically a tablet in the vehicle that is GPS that's connected to our scheduling dispatch system. The broker vehicles ping us, like send us GPS data when they're doing paratransit trips.
Okay, so you can determine on time or, showing if they're showing up on time.
Yes, when we measure on-time performance, it is based on GPS data.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
I just want to piggyback onto something that Kalia said about using transit. I had my mobility limitations. I was taking a subway to a bus to another bus to be accessible. And that's a lot of trips. So I think that looking at the three-legged transfer or ways to increase maybe a time on transfers on transit. I know that's outside your purview, but that would, I think, give people more options for traveling, for looking at transit rather than looking at it as, I didn't have Access-a-Ride available to me. I didn't want to do a temporary option, but for people who can use accessible transit, to look at it as a way to do that. But it's like paying for 4 trips. And even with fare capping, if I don't do that every day, I'm not going to hit it. So looking at ways to increase transferability within the system, I think would be super helpful. Matt, we'll get to your swear. Matt, hold on. Chris, you have something?
Yes, I was waiting till you finished, Lisa, and I was glad you mentioned it. And what I was gonna say is, since my mother uses Access-a-Ride, I do carry her Omni card with me. And she agreed with me. People will say, and the picture looks like she died and came back to life, which in one way, well, she told me to say it anyway. I'm gonna be telling the truth. I'm not gonna lie to you, Andrew. But what I'm seeing is with the app and with Access-a-Ride, and Rachel, since you've been on Access-a-Ride, there has been a lot of good changes.
Yeah.
And because first of all, I'll say this for the record. One, when we have these big events, Rachel's there. Number 2, when there is an issue, you have the new team outreach, and they have gone out to many things. And when I have seen for these years of not just showing them how to register the Omni card for Access-Right or reduced fare, but the app as well. And you see them all over the MTA board books. Your team is on the pictures, government relations there, MTA accessibility team. And yes, Q is always on the picture because we know we can find them easily, just like on the Q line. I'm just kidding. But one thing that I just hope this year in the future we can still continue working on is the brokers. A lot of the broker issues that I'm seeing people, and it's a two-way street. It's not just Access-Right's problem and not just TLC. It's a three-way problem that people are not looking like, if you're a person in a wheelchair, you're not supposed to be using broker because must be something for them to get on the vehicle. They don't communicate. And sometimes it could be the passenger, sometimes it could be the driver, or sometimes it could be MTA. It's called communication needs to still be, it's better now, but it still needs like a little wrench of a tune-up. So we still got to continue working on that. And the one thing I am going to add, because this is serious, Andrew, this is really serious on this one, is it's not just MTA's issue, it's the post office. Because when you mail it, the mail's getting stolen. So we do have to work on another option for them. Because what happens is, say, I don't want this card to be in the mail. I want to pick it up, say, at Stone Street or at one of the reduced fare vehicles. Can we try to work on something for the future? Because thank God, reduced fare, I can go to any customer service center to get the card replaced. But this, you can't. This is an issue that it's not you guys, it's not you, Rachel, it's not your Access-Right. It's the post office, how they lose the card and how they lose it in the mail.
Actually, people are breaking into
Go ahead.
post boxes, mailboxes
Thank you.
outside.
Thank you.
If you take, I've had that happen to me. So if you take, and even the police and the US Postal Service say,
Agreed.
make sure you take something that's really important or valuable or has money in it to the post office to mail, not from a street mailbox.
Yes, and I can vouch that because
It's pretty sad that we've come to this point, but we have.
And I'm glad you're mentioning Andrew, because I have said this for the last months. So we still need to work on an option for them.
I'm sorry, I have another
No,
comment.
go ahead, Rebecca.
When we talk about Omni, I know you said you're a data person. Have you guys been analyzing the data for Omni, Access-Right Omni, how the customers have been using it? How have they been using the app? With the app, how is it? I mean, I know a lot of issues people are having with Omni in regular transit, with the cards not keeping their fare and their cards going to negative, even though they've added fares. Are you seeing those same issues across paratransit?
So we are, there are, like any technology rollout, right? We've certainly had bugs with the Omni system, and we have seen some in paratransit. I think they're pretty minimal, and we've taken some pretty significant steps to try to address them. So to the stats, we're seeing decent, every month, right? Our Omni usage grows. Like I said, it's over 10% now, which is, it's not huge, but it's pretty good considering a lot of people just got their cards and it takes time, right? For people to learn how to put money on my account, how do I use this? How do I reload? Am I sure it's going to work, right? There's a big trust and education factor, I think. But overall, those who are using Omni are, I think, report that it's working very well. We do get periodic reports of either, my zero fare didn't work, trying to tap into the subway or bus, or I tried to load value and it didn't work. It's really hard to tell, a one-off versus systemic issue in those cases, because we're not there with the person, right? You don't see the tap. You don't see how they put their credit card information in. So I'm not dismissing that, but I think by and large, the system, particularly for paratransit, is working really well. There is no tapping. It's all account-based, right? You get your card, you put money on your account, you go. It deducts the $3 at the end of the trip. It's not perfect, but I think it's working well. And on the app side, we continue to see, the uptick in the use of the app. We're getting 14,000 trips, on a really busy day are booked on my AR. It's 14,000 phone calls, right? That didn't have to happen, or 7,000. So those are, that's, I think, a big deal. And just before I forget, Chris, you raised outreach. I just wanted to give a shout out to Abby Banks, who's on the call, who's our outreach director, who's been instrumental in, driving all this forward.
Hi, Abigail.
is out there, literally every day, right? With Kevin and Tammy, who many of you know, and really kind of driving the strategy around our outreach and engagement.
And she does excellent.
Matt, you have a question?
Yes, hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, all. First of all, I want to thank Lisa for inviting me. This is my first advisory council. It's very interesting.
Telling
And
you about it.
I hope to come again. Also, Rachel and Q, congratulations. You've done an amazing job. I could just tell you, having been dealing with this issue, as Rachel knows, from the early days, I'm glad you brought up the no-shows because, that's how the whole broker program started. For those of you who weren't around at the time, it was basically I uncovered a $10 million contract that MTA had with I think a limo company. I won't mention the name of the company to pick up stranded customers and charge limo rates. And I thought it was scandalous at the time. And I went to Lee Sander, and he immediately had Tom Charles, the late Janet Lampierre, may she rest in peace, Howard Roberts in my office, and we developed the broker program together. And then after I left in 2010 at TLC, I did a federal study that was funded at a university that talked about the disparity at the time between the multi-passenger trips in the vans versus the on-demand. So I think it was like 2/3 less. I don't know what the differential is now, Rachel, but a taxi trip versus 1.5 passengers in those bigger vans was kind of an insane thing. But my questions and comments are as follows. Since I've been involved with this, after I left TLC, for those of you who don't know me, I was the commissioner for many years. Bit of a dinosaur now, but I work at the USDOT center. I'm a lawyer, and we do research in this area. But I'm president of the ITR. Lisa's been to for the last couple of years speaking at our events, and you're welcome to join us. I think you may have been there before, Rachel. And Q, we keep inviting you, but we can never get your schedule. But we're going to be out in Vegas this year, and the ITR, our members are all taxi and ride-hail commissioners, and we do best practices. It's a nonprofit, and we're very interested in a couple of things. And number one is the status of the e-hail program. I have a lot of members, Chicago, and we have an accessible transportation committee, which I think would love to get an update from you at some point. We do those meetings virtually, but they're very interested in the status of the e-hail program and if it's going to be made permanent. Number two, I don't know if you've been to the auto show, but I was there giving a speech a couple of weeks ago, and Kia has this new. A couple of years ago, I was called into this super secret meeting in Brooklyn somewhere, but they didn't tell me it was for Kia. I came in there and gave my insights into how do you build the best accessible vehicle. When I started the Taxi Tomorrow project many years ago, when I left, the RFP said every vehicle was supposed to be wheelchair accessible. And then, after I had left, they changed the RFP, which is a tragedy. But this vehicle, in my opinion, which was, I think they partnered with Braun Ability. I don't know if you've seen a Q, but I think it's like the taxi of tomorrow. I think it's great for general use. I don't know what their price point is going to be. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring it here. They're bringing it to our conference for show, but they have, obviously issues with the federal administration. So I wanted to suggest that vehicle if you haven't seen it, either for purchase or possibly for, just getting the other companies to partner with it. And the third thing I wanted to point out is, Nexar with the Black Car Fund, my former chief of staff, Ira, who I think you guys know too, he did this pilot with Nexar and it really took off. And a lot of these vehicles, believe it or not, that all the brokers are using, they have the cameras in there already. There may be an issue with using that footage with changing the terms and conditions, but they're in 30,000 or more vehicles, not because of insurance benefits, but because the riders, the passengers, the drivers want to make sure that their rating is not affected in an Uber or Lyft. So, they have basically those cameras there. So if you're interested in outside of the vehicles that you purchased, having a conversation with them about how they could help, I'd be happy to do that. If you want to talk to the Braun or the Kia people, they're going to be at our conference. I'm happy to do that. But I'm primarily interested in learning what the status is of e-hail and where that's going to go. The broker, are we going to be continuing the brokerage RFPs and systems moving forward? Are you happy with it?
Sure.
It looks like the analytics seem to support that it's working well. And we'd love to have you.
Can you
attend
sort of
and
wrap this up if you don't mind? Ask the question.
I think I got
I just did. I wanted to give information, not just a question,
No,
since
that
I'm
was
dealing
good.
with people all over the world about this stuff.
Sure. Nice.
So yes, Matt, I saw the Kia EV Wave. I agree. I think it has a lot of features that are good, aside from whether it's EV or gas powered. Curious to your thoughts if you said you had concerns, but it's good to see. I think that the industry is trying to innovate in this space. And, we talk to our TLC partners all the time, including about things like that. On the broader engagement with the industry, broker's here to stay. I mean, we're doing, the majority of our trips on broker now. I don't anticipate that changing. There will be another broker RFP, as we get toward the end of that contract. So that's all, positive in terms of our continued engagement with the TLC driver community and the ability to leverage taxes and FHVs in this non-dedicated service model. I completely agree. I think it's, not just successful, but it's so core to our service now that it's, like I said, not going anywhere. E-Hail is different. I sort of intentionally did not talk about E-Hail today, right? We have this small pilot, about 1% of our customers and trips with this on-demand pilot. And that is not something that we're in a position to expand right now with the broader growth of the program and all the other factors that I discussed. I'm well aware, right, of how well loved the program is and how beneficial it's been to those who are participating. But we are focused on, the 99% of trips that are happening on scheduled service and how we sustain that going forward.
Which makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
You have a question?
And then Deb.
Yes.
I'm sort of concerned about the safety issue of people who are strapped. And if something happens, an accident or something happens to the driver, I can get out because I have use of my hands. Not well, but I have use of my hands. And I can use my legs, but I cannot stand and I cannot walk. The new vehicles, as I went on to the first accessorized truck, I suppose that's what you call it, where you have that power button, I cannot reach it. So if something happens, I cannot get out of those things. At least with the old hooks, you could. But the idea of having that, and it's the same thing with the, I think that the new cab that they have, or the one that was shown by.
Yeah, the demos, yeah.
Has the same issue with, and the thing about it is that what I find is that people are so concerned about safety that they forget that something can happen, but we're stuck. And if by any chance, let's say 5 years from now, 6 years from now, all of a sudden we get into a Waymo card and they say, oh, well, they're safe because the Waymo is going to take them where they are. We're going to be strapped on it's like being strapped in a blender. And we're not going to be able to get out. And, some people have the ability, to reach those things, but I know that I won't. Same thing with the buses, that they are so concerned about safety that we are strapped, we can't get out. Something happens to the bus driver. Someone comes in with a gun and threatens people or whatever. We cannot get out. Everybody else does. But we're there, sitting ducks. So I remember, and I'm sorry, I remember when I came into this country, there was something on a bus, and I didn't know what it was, but it was in the back, and I saw people with a wheelchair going back, and they would hook on, and to get out, they would I don't know, they would.
There was a little
Release it.
release it.
That is what we need, something that you can get out of, because we have no way of getting out. And every time that I go into any vehicle, the first thing is to strap me down. Now, in the meantime, there are children, There are old people there. Everyone that's walking, is swaying. Nobody's strapped in down. But we, the people that cannot get out of it, are the ones that are strapped.
Yeah, listen, it's a really interesting point that you're putting out there. I happen to agree with you as a wheelchair user. I'm really sick and tired of all these freaking products by people who are not in wheelchairs, who know nothing about what they're designing. There is no ideation process with end users. And I will say, your safety is our priority. And we're definitely
Priority first.
we're definitely thinking about how to keep you safe in all situations. I'm one of those people who does not like to use a strap. I don't use them on airplanes because they're usually dirty. The same straps on taxis are dirty, so I don't want them on my white shirts, getting me dirty on my way to work. I don't use them, and I argue with taxi drivers who say, remember the training. If I say I don't want it, I take on that responsibility, and
Right.
you're not gonna strap me in. So, and it's a conversation that we're having with buses. It's a conversation that we continue to have in paratransit, and it's actually a conversation that I was having last night with Midori, and we will continue to have with TOC on how to better educate the drivers on, when a customer says, do not strap me, I don't want that for whatever reason, the responsibility is on the customer, and that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
We're not there yet. There's a lot of education that's necessary, but I totally agree with you on, Braun and many manufacturers who are not talking to end users, who are not talking to the people who are utilizing these products, who are creating problems for us in our lived experience.
What I noticed is that the new improvements are less of an improvement for the safety of the person's strap. So all of these new improvements for our safety is actually our demise. Because if that vehicle, and I'm telling you, when you are a customer on one of those, with one of those drivers that does not understand English and does not want to listen to you because he comes from an area where doesn't care about listening to women, especially disabled women. So therefore, we're stuck. They do not care,
Well,
And the thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't say that they don't care. We definitely care. And Rachel and I are working really hard to make sure that they understand what they're responsible for and what the experience we want to create for you. So it's an ongoing conversation. We hear you. You are safe. Although I do hear your point about in an accident or an unfortunate situation, you may not have an easy release and easy out that you used to have.
Yeah.
In a system that was deemed less safe because it had a lot of moving pieces. We're trying to reduce those moving pieces, standardize the straps, and to help drivers and the customer. We hear from drivers a lot. I hear from drivers all the time how they don't like those hooks because they break down, because the mechanism breaks and the hooks are obsolete. As of late, most of the yellow taxis I get in on, the hooks don't even work. And the taxi drivers don't know that they don't work because they don't inspect it because they don't have to. So it's an ongoing conversation. I hear your point. It's a really good one. It's something that we're working on. And it's an ongoing.
That's a really.
Thank you.
Okay.
Deborah.
And is this, I think, is our last question, because
Yes.
I know that you guys have already overstayed.
I'm sorry. I have one more question. Just one more for Rachel. Just one more.
Okay.
Sorry,
Let
woman.
Deborah go first, please.
No,
She's been waiting.
no, I've been patient, everybody.
Okay.
So this is quick.
Uh-oh.
All right. First of all, there's been a lot of improvements, but I'm going to tell you that the people who I go on now with my walker, but I hate when you have the strap that goes across your shoulder. If you're short, it goes on your neck. You can get choked. People who also have short height. Now, I'm not talking about people who are also maybe in the dwarf midget, but I'm talking about a lot of people are shorter than me who are under 5 feet. When they put those on, it's right here on your shoulder. The only way you can stop it, you have to actually keep your arm under the strap so you don't choke. They think it's safer, but it's choking and asphyxiating us. So if you'd like, another time we can text it and you'll see what is going on. That's it.
It's a good point, Debbie. There's no such thing as a standard non-compliant body. And that's my beef with Da Vinci for introducing a standard prototypical body. It's the same reason why so many acts trashes and deadly, because there's a prototypical body for everything out there. Good point, Debbie. And unfortunately, beyond our control, what people understand out there.
Yeah, no, that's true.
All right.
So just a quick one. It's about Omni and adding the Omni to the app. You know, that feature is not there, so the person can't really choose when they're booking their trip, whether or not they use the app or cash. Can we add that feature to the app?
So I think there's a broader conversation about integrating Omni into the MTA app. But as it stands today, so for paratransit specifically, if you put money on your Omni card or your Omni account, right, which you can do online at a customer service center, any of the channels, your paratransit trip will automatically default to being paid by Omni. And you should see that in the app. You know, after you booked your trip, right? It'll say, I forget exactly, right? But basically like, you know, $0 on board paid with Omni. If you don't have money in your account anymore, right, it'll revert back to cash. However, if you, and we've heard this from customers, right? Oh, I put money in my Omni account, but there are whatever certain trips I want to pay with cash. You can call and ask for that trip to be paid with cash, and we can do that. You cannot do that like toggling in the MTA app right now because Omni is not, you know, fully integrated in my AR.
Stupid issue.
Yet.
Thank you.
Well, I think that wraps up our question. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Really
Thank you
helpful
very much. Really
and
very
informational. Thank you so much.
Andrew, since
Keep
Q
up
is,
the great work.
Andrew, since Q is here, we were mentioning about signage. And Q is next to Sharon, who had a question about Grand Central. About the accessible signage, the elevators.
Within Grand Central Terminal?
Yes, the whole.
Not the subway station, the
subway,
terminal.
no, the subway station.
The subway.
Subway
Teleport.
six
Oh, and the,
tracks.
Advisory committee meeting tonight.
Tell her.
can you just ask you a quick question, please?
But everywhere there are elevators. It would be nice to have great big signs that are up so that when you get off, you know, you can look and see whether you,
Which direction the elevator is.
yeah, because you can never find it or you have to wander around. And the people who need the elevator are the people who have the most trouble walking around. They're on crutches or whatever. And so if it could be as visible as possible, the boarding areas and the elevator areas, just so you can look up and find where they are.
Obviously, the announcements on the trains are great.
Yeah.
You know, the elevator's at the rear of the
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no, it's a good point. It's something that I'm speaking to signage about and they know, and we are enhancing our signage operations right now, not only at Grand Central, but system wide.
And the floor decals, right, are.
Well, the floor decals is very visible and you know, but I think she's talking about getting to the elevator.
Yes.
Or to the boarding
So you
area.
can see where it is.
Yeah.
Where it is.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you guys.
Fab.
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, I do.
For me,
Yeah.
what's your question?
Well, a simple arrow,
Yeah,
a simple arrow.
no.
Because
That's what I said to signage. That's exactly what I said.
some of the elevators are around corners.
Yes.
And you can't see them from,
Yeah.
so therefore just an arrow that goes that way. Stupid arrow.
I can't argue with that.
I mean, I'll paint it,
I'll see. And also just,
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Don't paint it. Let us do it. Let us do it.
I'm a painter, so.
Let's, we're gonna continue our meeting, and Chris might have had an answer for something you
Yes.
asked, Stuart, so,
Can I bring up to new business?
yes. Answer.
Okay, the answer is, to answer your question, Stuart, I got this from not just Committee Board 13 because they just sent me the minutes. There has been a minor delay because of two areas. They have switched contracts. Because the contract was supposed to do it, they left. So now they have to get a new person with their
We're
art.
talking about painting of the
F
F-line
train.
structure.
So I guess.
And he's actually right. It is abandoned. And now a new vendor will be working on it. There will be new dates when they're going to do the geo.
That's why
And
it gets abandoned.
second question is, be advised that Avenue I is also getting ready because they're not doing painting yet because they're doing the accessible work at I. So I got that answer also. So just to be aware, Anthony Drummond is aware of that very much because this was complained by Committee Board 13 and they had their transportation meeting. And right now, Committee Board 13 is finally have peace. So I just want to be, excuse me, ladies, I just got to make sure this is on the record. So they are working on that, and they're also putting the nets at West 8th Street. So they are working on it, and Transit 34 is also catching kids who are throwing stuff. So I just want to be that clear.
So again, so given this development that ties into that question of me going to Coney Island or expand their service, if there are gonna be disruptions because of revamp or restart.
I don't see the G going to Coney Island anytime soon.
That's what.
Until after December.
December, yeah.
And just give you guys the quarter completion will be at 2020, the third quarter of 2027. The completion.
Of the G?
No,
The
the
painting.
the painting, the scraping stuff. Yes.
Wow. Okay, we're in new business. Does anyone else have an item to bring up in new business? Go ahead, Glenn.
I really want to circle back around to the subway surfing issue that continues to happen.
Did you hear today's news?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
today,
Today, apparently they've discovered that many of the kids who are doing this have gotten keys to the
Yeah.
various places in the cars, including the conductor's cabin, and that allows them to gain access
Yes.
to the roof.
On Amazon.
yeah.
You're getting them on Amazon.
Unbelievable. But they're available for sale?
This is a real serious issue that, Chantel came in and before and discussed this issue with us as a group. And I think we saw it kind of die down for a little bit. There was a little bit of, a crackdown, but now that school is coming out.
Yeah.
I'm a Brooklynite and I see them on the train going over the bridge.
Oh, yeah. The
And I am horrified by this as a parent, as a frequent rider across the Williamsburg Bridge. It's horrible. And to say the least, to have other children stepping in to stop this from happening. I don't know what's going to happen, what we're going to see, what the summer is going to look like. And I think this is something we need to bring back around in terms of how to strategize on addressing this. And I say this as a parent, my son wouldn't do it because he's 6'6", but
I brought up the issue of access to these keys to Demetrius at the last meeting and what they're doing about it. Are they changing the locks and, making like a passcode that you require besides the key in order to get into some of these important places? And he said, we're looking into that. But how Amazon is getting a hold of these keys is beyond me.
I believe they said that they were putting some changes to the locks, but it was taking time.
Right.
But
I think they need to.
I know that Gene, it was something that Gene was particularly interested in as well.
Yes.
He had to, I think he was switching to another mode. I'm not sure if he's coming back. Maybe it's worth revisiting this in
Yes, absolutely it is.
future meeting as well.
I think we need to follow through on this big time.
Yeah, I think we need to really go back to the idea of like what's happening with the crime statistics, because we keep hearing all these positive things, but my lived experience is different.
Anytime I'm on a 7 and I'm outside, I always look, especially when I'm at Court Square, which is a place that people get on because it's
A really
back in
dangerous place because there's a
open
big
and-
curve.
Well, it's not just there, it's at the back, people
In the
just
back.
climb right back on.
And
climb-
Marcy Avenue on the J&M. Oh, my God.
And
it's
let's
really
let's not leave out the F line and the Brighton line, because they did catch a kid.
copycat on the other end too.
Yeah.
The queue.
Yeah, they caught someone today.
So the bridge has been like a real sore spot, so I think we definitely.
They said that on the
Yeah,
news.
it's been
Williamsburg Bridge
really-
is a.
I don't know what the fascination is. It's the easy access over the bridge.
Yeah, so maybe we have Chantel and Chief Kemper to come back together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Chief, yeah.
the idea of the crime in general, the subway surfing, the homeless. I heard, Brian, you mentioned Scout. Was it you that mentioned Scout earlier?
I
Or Lisa?
Yeah.
We keep hearing all these positive statistics about the crime going down. However, like I said, I'm in the street, right? I'm on the platform, and the lived experience of a lot of people is that crime is not going down. These everyday opportunity opportunistic crimes. It's not as down as you are seeing. Like I have said, my nephew was robbed by a homeless person at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, he's standing on a platform to go to school, and he had to fight a homeless person for his phone.
I have heard statistics that say as the weather warmed up, there's fewer homeless in the system because they used it to stay warm in the winter, of course. I do hear that the scout team is taking some of them. They actually hold a conversation with the homeless to see if they're compos mentis and they can take care of themselves. And if it sounds like they cannot, they immediately take them to help. What they don't know is how long they stay at those places, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's the point, right? That conversation needs to come up again from us. We need to raise the
Absolutely.
conversation
And it
again
is,
with the
yeah,
chief
yeah, 'cause
about, this happening. You know what I mean? This happening. This should not be happening at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Or at any other
Or any other time, but just, this is insane.
Maybe we need them back.
Yeah, we need to.
So Stuart's right, Clea's right. Let's get them back. We're at
Let's get
2
them back.
o'clock. Let's get them back.
Yeah.
That's very sad and note to end on.
Very sad. But we will follow up for sure. You can relax on that one.
I will relax when we.
Motion to-
Second.
Thank you all. Very informational and terrific meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Through running people.